Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Uncaged podcast. And I am so excited to be bringing this episode to you because it really feels like I am finally starting to bring all of these amazing guests to you on who can talk on all these topics that I'm really passionate about. And today I am talking to Dr. Ashvy Bhardwaj, who is the bespoke doctor. And she is a functional medicine practitioner. She's a traditionally trained doctor as well as a functional medicine expert, personal trainer. So she is multi-skilled. She's a nutritionist as well. And the reason that I really wanted to bring Dr. Ashvy on today for you is because of my own journey with my own health ultimately. And, a few years ago now, probably actually 5 years ago, I started to work with a functional medicine practitioner. And it's just changed my life. It's changed my understanding of my health. It has changed my health. It's changed how I look at what's possible for me. It's changed how I relate to my own body. It's just honestly just the biggest gift to yourself to really start looking at things from a functional medicine perspective. And I'm going to let Dr. Ashvy explain what functional medicine is. She does an amazing job, and we just cover so many topics that are going to be so empowering for you when it comes to really taking control of your own health. And so I hope that you enjoy this episode. I hope that you go away from it really feeling like you have some agency and influence over your own body and your own health, and that it inspires you to go and try a few things and do things slightly differently so that you might end up with some different health outcomes. Honestly, I cannot advocate for functional medicine highly enough. It really is well worth the time, the money, the effort to start looking into taking a functional medicine approach to your well-being. So all of that being said, I am going to let you dive into the episode now. And as I said, I sincerely hope that you enjoy this episode. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Uncaged podcast. I am so excited to be back here again with you. And today I have a wonderful, wonderful guest, Dr. Ashvy Bhardwaj. And I'm so excited to share everything that we're going to talk about with you today. So much wisdom. So welcome, Ashvy.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be on a podcast that's not specifically around health. This is a lot deeper than that. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have somebody with your expertise on, because this is one of the things I really wanted to share with more people because of my own journey was around functional medicine and really taking control of your health. So before we dive into all of that, let's start with a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do, and how have you come to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So I went into medicine, in my 20s as you do, and I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I've got a scientific brain, and it was working really well until, even during my degree. And then afterwards, when I trained as a GP, something for me was very amiss. That's what the modern way that we practice medicine in the Western world was not what I had signed up for. I had signed up for this kind of, you fix them, you see them and you fix them. And even if that's with drugs, that's fine. You fix them and then they go and live their happy lives. Unfortunately, I was observing over the years that just wasn't really happening. And I think it was kind of 2010, 2012, I'd met my ex-husband, and bless him, he was just very encouraging for me to kind of follow my dreams. And he could see I was a really, really good cook. So I applied to MasterChef. So I'd been a GP for a few years by then. I applied to MasterChef. I got on, which much to my surprise. And I actually made it all the way to the semi-final. But even that experience made me realize that I don't want to not be a doctor, but I had to kind of almost redefine what being a doctor was, because that pill approach just didn't sit well. And that is the approach, unfortunately, we have in the Western world. It's all about a collection of symptoms that need to fit into a box, and then that box will then be addressed by a collection of treatments, which could be pharmaceutical, could be interventional, surgical. But that whole other realm of healing, which is massive, was not touched upon. So, normal doctor, MasterChef, still not happy, still wanting to leave medicine, and I discovered something called functional medicine, which is what this podcast is about. And functional medicine, it's a fancy word for what I class as medicine. Okay, if you go back to ancient times, if you look at the other practices of medicine around the world, they're all the same. They're all rooted in the same ideology. And you know what? Forget medicine. Any problem, law, engineering, it's the same methodology and it works. Root cause, why has somebody got X, Y, Z symptoms? Could it be because of A, B, C lifestyle things? So shall we fix it by addressing the lifestyle? That's what functional medicine is, in essence, which is what really should be just called medicine, right? When you go to the doctor for a headache, you kind of want the doctor with his expertise of the brain, of science, of pain, but also you as a person, to kind of go, could it be because your husband's away for work right now and you've got all this extra burden? Like, just always thinking a little bit laterally. Luck took me to kind of Australia at the time of functional medicine and MasterChef and all of that. And I'd also gained a nutrition qualification and personal training, because my own personal story was obesity. I was about 3 to 5 stones overweight, fluctuating, despite eating very healthy food, by the way. Okay, I was never a junk food takeaway kind of person. I've grown up with an incredible chef mum. She's not a chef, sorry, but her food is amazing. So for me, always cooking was part of my life. Hence MasterChef. So the food was really, really good. It was all the wrong food. And it was things like snacking and all of this kind of stuff. We'll talk about if you want later. So, MasterChef's happened. I'm falling out of love with traditional medicine. I moved to Australia and I discover a certain way of eating that I had never even kind of heard of before. It's like the low-carb lifestyle, basically. And to me that, it sounded like it made sense. I went back to the textbooks and I was like, why do we just tell people to eat, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grams of carbohydrates per day? And we have this diabetes crisis and obesity crisis, which can have, part of it can be down to carbohydrates, for example. I'm in Australia. I meet my first type 2 newly diagnosed diabetic patient, and she was Caucasian, which is unusual, and she was very slim, which was unusual. Generally slim English women don't get type 2 diabetes. And I was like, how? Anyway, I went to the practice manager and I said, I've heard about this method of like reversing type 2 diabetes. Can I do it, please? Now, Australia has a really different health system to us. He just said, are you going to hurt the patient? I said, by getting her to swap like bananas to blueberries and bread to like rice, I don't think so. And he said, go ahead, doc. And he gave me the all clear. And lo and behold, she reversed her diabetes within about 2 to 3 months of just doing a little bit of fasting. And then I started using that approach for everyone. So I had an inflammatory bowel disease come in, bish, bash, posh, within like 6 months. She had the best colonoscopy reading of her life. Anxiety, depression, blood pressure, acidity, fertility, painful periods, menopause, everything I managed in that year I practiced in Australia with lifestyle. And Corinne, everyone got better. So that was the kind of beginning of my love of this lifestyle medicine. I ended up losing my 4 stones of excess weight. I've kept it off even through lockdown. 7 years later, I'm still the same weight, despite lots of fluctuations in terms of food and whatnot. Through my own journey of weight loss and health gain, I discovered the beauty of what happens when you sleep well. I really learned about stress, because up until recently, you weren't allowed to admit you were stressed. You were seen as weak and stuff like that, So now, and that's what I do. I work predominantly in the NHS. I do want to see more patients privately, but, I would love to be able to bring this to the masses, making small changes, really small changes, can make such amazing differences.
Yeah. And that's, I think, something that we'll definitely get onto later on in the podcast for people who are like, right, okay, what can I actually do? Like, what's accessible to me? And you've just given a massive, really brilliant description of the difference. No, that's fine. Massive was not what I meant to say at all. A really brilliant description of the difference there between like functional medicine and like normal conventional medicine. And I guess, yeah, from my own journey, that I came to it because I think I was already very interested in nutrition, and I'd already started to get interested in a lady called Dr. Libby Weaver. I don't know if you know Dr. Libby Weaver. She's based in Australia and New Zealand. And I just somehow was guided to work with her, or the lady who works for her. And it was a very functional approach. And now, like, I really don't like to go to the GP for anything, because I know it's going to be quite one-dimensional, and like you say, it's going to be treating the symptom rather than actually looking at, well, that's nice, but you're going to have to treat that symptom forever unless you fix the root cause. And I think that's what I see anyway, it really needs to shift in people's thinking, is that you can fix the root cause, because I think we're so conditioned into believing that it's just something wrong with us that we can't fix. So for instance, thyroid problem, which is one, I have an underactive thyroid, but and although it runs in the family, I'm like, yeah, but I was fine until I was in my mid-30s, so surely I could be fine again, like if I treat it in the right way. And then something must have triggered that to start. Absolutely. As well. Yeah,
that's right, because in functional medicine, there are these words that we have like triggers and antecedents, and that's a way of looking at it in a very kind of logistic manner. But you're right, and I've kind of got like this over the years with my colleagues. I'm so frustrated because I don't get it. I don't get how, say you've been a GP for just even 10 years and you sat there in your surgery and you don't need to be the most observant person in the world to see there's a rise in every single chronic disease. Like name one that hasn't risen, from simple things like childhood reflux. Like 10 years ago, I'd be prescribing baby Gaviscon to, I don't know, 1 in 50 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, now I see 1 in 10 kids on baby Gaviscon. Yeah. And why is nobody asking this? Thyroid problems, fertility, everything. Like it's not, this isn't a medical kind of podcast to talk about statistics, but for so long I've been really frustrated with my colleagues. I don't get it. You asked a very interesting question in the run up to this podcast about why do you think we have become disempowered? And it's a combination of so many things, I think. Okay, these are just thoughts. There's no evidence on this. It's just my thought process. Okay, and again, I can go by what I witnessed, which is young naive GP, comes in. This lady going, so I've heard that if I use valerian tea, it will help me sleep, because my grandma used to use it. What do you think? I've had insomnia for years. Oh, don't be silly. That's an old wives' tale. That's what we were. Yeah, that's I hadn't even heard of the tea, right? But the fact that it was a tea, so God forbid it could work. Yeah, come in, doc, healthy man in his 20s, exercises, doesn't smoke, slim, doesn't have any diseases, etc. Comes in, doc, I feel really great. I want to stay really great. Can I kind of get an MOT, please? Can I get a general health check? We don't do those. Listen, wait till you're sick. Come in, we'll sort you out then. I'm not even, okay, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but inherently that's the message. We don't try and, the prevention stuff, okay, the prevention information, disease prevention, it's not changed. Don't smoke, don't eat fat, don't eat meat, don't eat salt.
Yeah.
Don't drink too much, don't be sedentary. Really? No talks about stress. No talks about screen time. No talks about eating organic, because pesticides are really very dangerous for you.
Yeah.
It's I think doctors are not trained. I don't think that. Sorry, I know that we are not trained to look at root cause. We're just not. Everything has got a pathology. Like by pathology, I mean something very serious, right? So like, if we look at something like reflux, acidity reflux, one of the biggest reasons is because we are so stressed right now in society, and stress basically zaps your hydrochloric acid, which is what's needed to digest food. Okay, nobody's looked at the pathology of gastric reflux in 50 years, because doctors are still going on and on and on and on and on about it being too much acid in the stomach. So they try and give you all these drugs to drop the acid in the stomach. It's actually completely the other way around. There's not enough acid in the stomach. And actually, have some lemon water. Where do they recommend lemon water? Oh, in the East. You know, like simple things like that. Have acidic water before a meal to help with digestion. And then you won't need your PPI, and you won't need your ranitidine, and you won't, you know, we're not trained like that. We're not trained to think, why are things getting worse? We're definitely not trained to look at the environment or food or stress. Everything has to be like a bug. It has to be like some kind of a virus or a bacteria, or it's family history, or it's smoking and alcohol and red meat and sugar. And, you know what I mean? It's like, because I asked my friends, I'm like, guys, why do you think we're having so many fertility issues in this country? And it's the same answers. Oh, we're picking it up more. We're living longer. Women are delaying their family. I'm like, you know what? They're doing all of this in like the Indian like villages as well. But you know what? They don't have any fertility issues there. So let's think again. What could it be? Shall we? And it's too many blocks. They're in too many blocks everywhere.
Yeah. And do you think it's because it almost feels like it's just too much to even like comprehend, like looking at all these different factors? Oh my goodness, that's just
very overwhelming.
So difficult and overwhelming. Yeah, it's far easier to just go, here's a pill, or here's some Gaviscon, or.
And I think unfortunately the easy approach to health is what started 50, 60 years ago. And it's not even just the easy approach, an easy and fast, shall we say, approach to health. It's a lot of things that actually, if we just slow down a little bit, it's the fast approach to parenting. It's the fast approach to eating. You know, I've got 5 minutes, right? All right, I better just grab something, shall I? Why have you got 5 minutes? Why have you not given yourself 45 minutes for lunch? What is it that's taken over? You know, I don't know if it was on your Insta or another Insta the other day about this badge of honor we've given us, which I gave myself too, by the way. I never sit down. 10 years later, like fat and stressed and upset, you know, like, it wasn't working, did it? I thought I was a type A personality all my life because I'd made myself into this type A, right? Because that's what you need to be as a woman to succeed. I'm actually so a type B, and it took me so long to get my head around that. Actually, I'm not that person who wants to be go, 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 go. But man, you get accolade when you go, I never sit down, I never sleep. Oh, well done.
Yeah. I know. I'm still doing some work in the corporate world, and it's so fascinating that now that I've been on my own journey and really taken that step back, and I'm like an observer of it, and I'm looking at them like, guys, are you insane? And you know, I've got colleagues who are like, oh, if I logged all my hours, I'd be doing 8 days a week, and if I'm the kind that would work 10 days a week, I'm like, no, you wouldn't, because you can't do, like, physically it's not possible. You can't. And I could say I used to be that person, you know, work 70 hours a week, but my body actually revolted. You know, it was my body that intervened for me. And I've got issues in my shoulder, which I still haven't resolved completely. And then I got my first migraine, which I didn't have a headache at all. You know, my vision went, and I thought I was going blind. Not that, you know, drama queen or anything, but I was like, oh my God, I'm going blind. And it was at that point where I just,
that's scary.
Really, I just decided I was dropping to 4 days a week, and I was going to do things differently. But still, when I came out, I still had that mindset of, you've got to work hard, you've got to be busy all the time. And don't get me wrong, you know, I have a thirst for understanding and knowing, and you know, that's why sometimes I kind of take on a little bit too much and too many things. But yeah, that type A, you know, I'm a type A, you know, I'm an alpha female, and now I'm like, actually, I just want to play as much as I can. So I want to figure out a way that I can do work that I really love, that is play, that pays me enough money that I don't have to work all the time, so that I can play, and so that I can take really good care of myself as well. I think that was one of the reasons as well I ended up wanting to leave corporate, was I was so into my fitness, moving all the time outside of corporate, and then I had to spend like these 8 or 9 hours a day sitting in a chair in a grey office with strip lighting.
Ugh.
And I was just like, this doesn't feel right. I want to be moving and behaving like a human, not like a robot. But that it's still such a culture, like the corporations I work with, still such a culture of overwork. And like, right, what would happen if we all just went, I'm not working any more than my contracted hours? All of us collectively at once. Like, the rebel in me just really wants to see what would happen if people. But it's such a culture.
I think we are using the wrong parameters. That's by we, I mean our internal voices, yeah? Females especially.
Yeah.
We're using the wrong parameters to define success. I know I was.
Yeah.
I saw a business coach when I turned 40 because this functional medicine stuff I was doing really wasn't taking off at the speed at which I wish it was taking off. And, I remember saying to her, I was crying on the phone. She was this beautiful, kind, empathetic soul in Netherlands who was herself a psychiatrist. And I just said, I'm not successful. I can't believe I'm not successful. And she just kind of paused and went, what? What do you mean? I went, well, I don't have the house I wanted and I drive a clapped up Golf and And she goes, but you're raising a child by yourself and you bought a house and you still bought a house and you've lost all this weight. But because I hadn't reached these few parameters, that for me was I'm not successful. So where we get all of this, what is success and why must we do it? I mean, that's, another podcast, but we put too much pressure on ourselves. And you touched upon something, Corinne, that I wanted to just expand upon quickly without trying to upset or stress anybody in your audience out. I want this to be empowering.
Yeah.
When you said I had to stop because my eyesight started going and right? I can tell you that will happen to everyone eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a wonderful guy, you probably know him, Dr. Gabor Mate. He's got a wonderful work called When the Body Says No. And it's such a odd concept for an allopathically trained doctor to grasp, that you would want to bring a disease into yourself. I think the phrase, the want is the confusing bit.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever want that? What Dr. Gabor Mate and not even him, Hippocrates, started off with, disease all begins in the mind. How? Because if you start having all of the stress, whatever it is, okay, whether it's stress put upon you, whether it's stress you're putting upon yourself, that causes chemical stuff going on in your brain. Simple. Inflammation, higher cortisol, decrease of that. Eventually, something is going to give.
Yeah.
And I say that to everyone. I'm like, you can keep on ignoring this. I'm not, you're not my partner or my sibling or my child. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you, and I mean this in the nicest of ways, if you don't start addressing your predominantly stress now, it's going to come as your cancer. And that's quite a controversial thing I say. Like, what? I don't smoke. And I'm like, so what? Smoke 20 a day. If you don't sort out your mental health, you'll get cancer. You'll get dementia. You'll get Parkinson's. You'll get something. Because there is huge amounts of evidence around the science of what's going on when we are having these decades and decades and decades of mental health stress.
Yeah. And it's that prolonged stress, isn't it? Because that was when I came out of corporate at the end of 2015, I thought like all my problems are going to be over because I've left what was causing me the stress. And then I realized, oh, bugger. I was causing me the stress because it's still ongoing. And then I also started to discover, I did have a chronic stress profile in my body. I did all the saliva tests and I had done some major damage to my body just by basically ignoring my body's distress signals over those years of, I'm stressed. I don't like this. This doesn't feel good. And I think that is one of the key things for me is we ignore those distress signals because we've been conditioned into, but I should be hardworking. I should be able to do this. If I admit that I can't do this or it doesn't work for me to work 11 hours a day or 12 hours a day, then I'm weak and I'm not good enough and I'm not successful.
Yes.
But like you say, your health will be impacted if you continue to ignore effectively your body's distress signals, which can be as much for me as this doesn't feel right. Like I'm not enjoying this work. This work is causing me to be anxious. It's causing me to be stressed. And like you say, I worked out, I ate well for most of the time. I did have a couple of years where all of that went out the window, which definitely contributed to my issues when I left corporate. But compared to most, I was pretty damn healthy, but I wasn't really taking care of myself because I wasn't looking at the mental side of things. So I remember when I started working with the functional medicine practitioner, herbs, and you need to do this, you need to eat this, and you need to not eat this, and all these kind of things. But she said to me, if you do not change the way you live, none of this will help.
She was 100% right.
And I was like, oh, bugger, because that's the hardest thing to do.
Oh my God, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I've been doing functional medicine for 8 years, and I have 4 pillars, okay? And it's like food, movement, sleep, and stress. And I kind of start going through it. So I'm like, on the food front, you're going to have to go like, and people's faces like drop.
Yeah.
Like, food, trust me, is the easiest bit. Food and movement, because trust me, I'm going to get you to like on your sleep. That means no caffeine after midday and blah, 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 no food, no this, and like their faces are dropping even more. And then I'm like, and now the stress bit. And honestly, it's really, really hard for people to, it took me, and I'm very, very, I'm hyper aware. I'm a Pisces, I'm an empath. I am in my body in terms of my emotions. I'm so aware of everything. Like, this was because of this and this because of this. But my stress, it took a friend of mine over years and years and years he was just observing me online. Just going, you're so stressed. And I'd be getting so offended. I'm not stressed. And you would be stressed if you're a single parent. He goes, okay. But how can I help? What can we start doing about it? But admitting it was seen as a failure. Because I was like, but I'm this, and I've lost all this weight. How can I? Just like, yeah, but you're not sleeping well still, or you're moaning about your aging. And so it's just a really difficult thing to admit to. There is such a huge stigma around weakness, it being a weakness. And oh my God, I think we find in the Western world that anything that is remotely self-care is self-indulgent as a female. Okay. I don't know. I shouldn't maybe talk too much about men because I don't really have any men in my life that I can actually sit there and kind of give you examples. But correct me if I'm wrong. I kind of feel like a man can just have a really, really crap day at work, for example. This is before COVID times, okay? And he'll kind of go like, do you know what? It was an awful day. I'm going to go to the pub for a few pints with my besties, talk about football, talk about whatever it is. Yeah. And then they go home and it's kind of like whoosh, gone. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know men.
Yeah, I think
women. I don't know. We don't do that very well. We kind of.
No, I think I've definitely known some men. In particular, there was the one guy that I worked with, just a wonderful guy. And when you work with somebody and think, this is not where you are meant to be. Like every single role he did, he was stressed, but he was the loveliest, had the best intentions. And I really felt like, I think you're trying to fit into somebody else's mold here. And he was just massively talented musician outside of work, and you could see how much joy it gave him, and I just thought, and he got a brain tumor and passed away, and and there was just that element of me. Obviously I didn't voice it because it's quite controversial.
Was it that
that must have been a contributing factor in the way that I understand how we work as humans and everything. And you just think, my goodness, just so important that we
this is the thing, like how what you even just said, that maybe I shouldn't say because it's quite controversial. This controversialitis that we have in this country is preventing us from being healthy. Okay. Do you know how many talks I've given, and I've wanted to say, this is the first podcast I've actually said it, that our mind can lead to disease. In fact, not can. Okay. Even the words, the fluffy words I use, can. Your mind will lead to disease. I can say that to you. Thank you for giving me the space to say that, by the way, because other podcasts, that's too controversial. You can't say that. And I'm thinking, I get it. It's uncomfortable, okay? But why don't we look at the flip side of it being empowering?
Exactly.
I say that you are, random example, You were raped when you were 15. You've never spoken about it. You have every single health condition under the sun. And you still refuse to admit it, acknowledge it, or do something about it. Like, come on. You know, the body carries a score. Sorry to use Gabor's words, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah,
and I think that we have to change the dialogue. We have to change the energy around talking about, you know, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I can't cope. I mean, I'm quite vocal about it now, in the hope that it allows gives them people space to kind of go, okay, well, she did it. This was a success doing this, and she's sitting there crying and breaking down and talking about her loneliness. And because I talk about a lot of stuff. I'm very open with my feelings. I'm hoping it will kind of go, all right, well, I'm going to start doing that as well. Because Corinne, since I started talking about my mental health more and addressing it, I lost weight, like from carbs and it's the health parameters I have now. I feel amazing. I feel so healthy. I feel buzzing. I sleep well. I'm kinder and gentler to people. I'm more patient with my daughter. I'm more forgiving to everyone, including myself. It's just, the benefits are incredible, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing that you said there. It can seem like controversial and scary to think about actually, you know, we ourselves are what creates what happens within us, whether it's minds, you know, what's going on in our mind or what's what we put in our bodies. But then on the flip side is, but so empowering, because then you've got full control and full influence over how your body, how you feel, and you know, your health outcomes. And I think it's just it's fascinating. And like you keep talking about, you know, Gabor Mate, and also reading a body about about the trauma being stored in the body. The body knows the score or keeps the score. I kind of
it keeps the score. Body keeps the score.
Yeah. And also I myself have done some work with somebody, with a coach who specifically focused on nervous system, because I just really recognized I was having a disproportionate response to certain things in my life. Like this anxiety would come up around the tiniest things. And I just thought, this isn't right. And then, as the universe does, you know, popped up in my Instagram was this lady. And, you know, when I started working with her, I recognized that it wasn't necessarily the event, it was my habitual, how my nervous system had been trained to respond. And I needed to train it differently in order to help me reduce my stress. I couldn't just wander around saying some nice affirmations. That's not going to cut it.
You have to do more than that. But an affirmation is a good start, isn't it?
It's a good start,
Talking about those neural pathways, you know, we do get dopamine. We do, you know, the type A, we get a dopamine hit. We get a dopamine hit from working 15 hours without a break. We need to change the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Mate, again, has got this wonderful podcast on addictions, and he talks about how we're all addicted to something. You know, addiction's got a really dirty connotation, okay? I don't know a single person who's not addicted to something, but it's because we always look at addictions as like drugs or alcohol. Actually, you know, people with these addictions are the biggest thing I see. You know, they're on like 15 hours a day screen time. They're addicted to these damn things, you know? But I think the reason we are struggling to admit our mental health is unfortunately down to ego, right? Because if you admit you're weak, then somebody's going to think something of you. And, you know, I think if we can, again, just try and change the story, try and change it from the young upward now, okay? So, you know, already I'm saying to my 6-year-old that it's the weak person who doesn't say sorry. It's the weak person, if we're going to use the word weak, for God's sakes, okay? Like, it's the weak person who can't admit their problems. It's the weak person who doesn't ask for help. So we've got to just change it, flip it around to what it has been. And then hopefully she'll tell one friend who might tell one friend. And that is where we can start the change, basically. Because we, you know, really are very stuck in ego, unfortunately. And, you know, I'm that phrase of it's better to be kind than to be right. You know, it's just so true, isn't it? It's better to be kind to ourselves. It's better to have that lie-in and the massage and be kind to ourselves rather than being right about being a workaholic. Like, just stop already.
Yeah, and it's, it's
You know what? Another thing that I'm very passionate about, like children and pets, dogs and stuff. I'm obsessed with kids and dogs, because they're just so innocent. They're so vulnerable. The world is their oyster. They're like little sponges. They're learning everything, and we can teach them the right stuff, or we can teach them the wrong stuff. So for that woman who feels it's too indulgent to stop, or who thinks it's good to work 15 hours a day, I just say, and you're happy for your daughter to do that as well, yeah? So when you look in the mirror and go, God,
yeah.
Nice. I wish I was. You're sucking your tummy in front of your kid. I'm like, you're happy for your teenager to start thinking like that, yeah? Because people don't realize, like, we learn everything from our parents or our caregivers. People who we are around, especially until our frontal lobe is fully developed, which can be up to like 21, 22 years of age.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's myself and my sister grew up with a mum who had no self-esteem and was permanently on a diet, even though she did not need to be. And we're now like at that stage of undoing. I can really see it in myself, like, where is this thinking coming from? Especially my sister as well with her daughter. It's like, I do not want to pass that on to her. So she's also, starting to address it and starting to look at changing that narrative. But you're so right. I mean, my mom never told us any, that our body should be this way or should be that way. We've just observed her relationship with her body.
Like on about 17 times more energy sensitive than adults, right? So they watch everything. So I remember, like, my daughter she's mixed race and her dad is Scottish. So she's got a very stocky, strong build, okay, which makes her heavy. But she's not fat, but she makes her heavy. And I remember once, I was lifting her to try and do the throwy thing. She must have been 3 or 4. And I went, ooh, I made that face as if like, God, you're heavy. Didn't say anything. And lo and behold, a year or so later, she was like, am I fat? Am I heavy? And I'm like, what? Why? Where did that come from? She remembered my face. When you lift me, Mum, it's really hard for you. And you're really strong I was like, oh, shit. It took a lot of work to undo that. So yeah, we've got to be, even so, if not for yourself, just do it for your children, please. Like, start taking some self-care, start using nice words to describe yourself. We just don't do that often enough.
And this is, I think that, like, the whole definition of self-care, in fact, this is definitely a post or a podcast that I want to do, is just, it's just so narrow. It's not about having a bath occasionally. That is not self-care. Like, self-care is like
that, but no,
nice. But for me, the self-care is everything we've been talking about, is like taking your health seriously and putting yourself as your number one priority, because if you're not okay, then nobody else is around you. And it's the nutrition and eating based on what's nutritionally good for you, rather than trying to restrict, which is definitely one of the shifts that I have had in the way that I think. And a bit like you, lo and behold, my body has just found its natural resting place. Like, I'm the weight that I was when I was stressed out and and punishing myself through my food and restricting. I'm freaking the exact same weight 10 years later as well. This whole age thing is just nonsense. And all I'm doing, I'm not restricting anything. I'm just eating what is nutritionally good for me, so it's that, and it's the movement. And I feel like sometimes, and especially in the personal development world, we're trying to put sticking plasters on all of these things, like the stress and the weight and the health issues. And actually, what we need to do is find a new way to live and be. Like, we have to, and I really think that this is coming. We have to change the way that we actually live on a day-to-day basis.
And in order to do that, we need to change how we think in many aspects. We need to change what we think is healthy. We need to change what we think is what we're put on this planet for. We need to change our definition of success, of self-indulgence. What is education? What is eating? What is spending time with your parents? We need to have a think. And I think the block, unfortunately, as I've said, is things like ego. Because if you say that how I've been doing it for 40 years was wrong, then oh my God. Whereas actually, I think that's really smart. I give people masses of kudos and make themselves have their own dopamine hits when they admit things. Just admit I was wrong. Isn't it so much easier to say I was wrong? I got it all wrong. Being a type A sucked. Eating like that sucked. Didn't work for me. I was completely stupid. Yes, I'm a nutritionist and a doctor, but I got it wrong. Who cares? I'm getting it right now.
Yeah.
That's going to get me respecting someone rather than someone who's constantly trying to cover it up and getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
And that's honestly definitely one of my biggest challenges in switching from, the work that I used to do and the work that I'm doing now. And also, just the way that I went about things, the type A way. One of the hardest things is admitting that didn't work. Like, it wasn't the right way for you. It's almost like, I don't want to admit.
We see that as the failure, not getting the right way, as opposed to what's the failure is staying in a system that doesn't work. And what's the strength, what's the win is going, that was wrong. Oops. But you know what? I'm going to do this now. That's the win. That's the thing that gets the accolade.
If
your desired goal.
If we think about like Einstein, one of his most famous quotes, and this is a pretty damn intelligent guy who we all admire, was, definition of insanity is keep on doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Doing it though, right? It's just hilarious. We like quoting these things, but we don't actually
quite
understand where they come from or how to go about changing.
So if somebody is listening to this and they are feeling empowered and they're feeling inspired, like, what would you say with the people that you've seen are the easy routes in to starting to make changes that can help you see kind of radical differences in how you feel and how you live?
This isn't easy, the first one I'm going to say, but it's crucial. And it's basically just try and be aware. Just be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it. Okay?
Yeah.
Why are you eating now? Are you hungry or are you programmed to eat? What are you eating now? Are you enjoying it or is it about carbs or calories? Why are you taking the extra shift? Do you really need the money? Or maybe you just need some escape from your kids for the weekend, and maybe, you know what I mean? So just start being a little bit aware of what we do, because I think we are so out of our energy and soul and awareness. We're so it's like we're standing outside our bodies, So just being aware of what makes you feel good, what makes you not feel good, and the language we use, if you can just stop. Women especially, stop using such negative words. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm fat, oh, I'm ugly, oh, I've got bad skin. I'm talking about you spill a glass of water. Oh God, I'm such a dickhead. I find myself still saying, and I'm like, really? You spilled a glass of water and you call yourself a dickhead. Like, oh my God, stop it. Be kinder to yourself, Oh, treat yourself, talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend. That's a friend told me that. That makes so much sense. I was really horrible to my daughter a few months ago, really horrible. I said some horrible things. I was mildly aggressive, and I was completely, after it happened, I was like a mess. I was crying. I was just so furious with myself. Called up the friend and he's like, self-compassion, Ash, self-compassion. I was like, what is self-compassion? I was just being a horrible mother. He goes, yeah, okay, fine. You were. Okay. You have your reasons behind it. You're tired. You're doing this by yourself. Blah, blah, blah. Plus your kid was being a shit, by the way. Okay. She was. I know her. So partly her fault too. Now, imagine X had done this to their kid. What would you be saying to them?
Yeah.
I was like, I'd be saying that, hey, sweetie, don't be silly. You're an amazing mom. You're really tired. Your blah, blah's away. You've been working lots. It's okay. He isn't going to remember that. Go and apologize. Give him a cuddle. Give yourself a cuddle. So he said, right now, say that to yourself. Oh, okay. So just start doing that kind of stuff. That's the kind of really simple self-definition of kind of self-compassion, self-love, is talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend or your sibling. I think and be aware. That's like a really simplified emotional kind of go-to. And then I've got some other easy tips. I think fasting is just a kind of a no-brainer. Or if you don't want to fast, just not eating this subscribed way of like 6 to 8 times a day. Doesn't matter if you're slim, pregnant, a growing child, we need to eat how we've always eaten in humanity for 200,000 years, which was 3 meals a day, or maybe 2 actually, predominantly. And then, you know, in the 70s, the guidance about snacks started coming out every 2 hours and all of this stuff. And we just have how health has just decreased since then. So just try and eat mindfully. Like, this is a very trendy phrase, right? Mindful. Is it internet connection?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's all good.
Mindful eating is something I'm very, very passionate about. And that means, like, for example, just eat less, but eat better. Okay, people say, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. I'm like, you can if you only eat 2 meals a day, or if you only, you know, if you only eat it maybe 3 or 4 times a week, you know. So eating mindfully is like sitting down and having a plate and using cutlery and putting your phone away and turning the TV off and sitting with your child or your friend or your loved one, or by yourself with a book perhaps, and take half an hour to eat and put your knife and fork down between each bite and chew your food properly, and don't wash it down with water as you're eating. Like, really taste your food, and you will enjoy it. You know, you will enjoy it more. And if you're eating the better food, you're likely to be full, so you won't need your snack 4 hours down the line. So this snacking thing is something I've got real issue with. It's just damaging. Forget calories, forget all of that. Our digestive system runs from our mouth to our anus, and it needs a damn break. Yeah, it is a huge task to digest food. So when we eat at 7, and then we eat again at 9:30, and then we eat again at 11, and then 1, and then 3, and like, what are we doing to our bodies? Yeah, our bodies need to repair and do other things, and yet we're just constantly feeding. So that's a big thing, is just try and eat 3 meals a day. Have your snack, whether that be a piece of fruit or like a healthier snack, yeah, or some almonds or whatnot. Have that after your meal. Sit down and just eat. Slow down, I think is a kind of theme that we're talking about here, aren't we? Because that go faster, you know, genuinely, whoever's listening, ask yourself, has that worked for society, and is it working for you? I don't think it is for many people. You know, on the same note, I'm like, if you don't feel well, if you're tired, if you haven't slept well, please don't go and put your body through a workout. I'm all for exercise. I'm a personal trainer. I love exercise. But, you know, we've got to see it as an enhancing thing. So if you're hungover, you're dehydrated, you're sick, and we're going to go and put our body through that turmoil, do you think your body's going to appreciate it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Slow down a little bit. Sleep. I used to say it all the time. You'll sleep when you're dead, you know. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Oh, sleep's for losers, sleep's for the weak. You know, type A indoctrination. Like, wow, how could I even think like that? Well, I know why I thought like that, because of cultural stuff. You know, my dad, if we'd even sleep past like 7 on the weekend, he'd be calling us lazy and all this kind of like, what? So it's just sleeping and focusing on sleep. And for that, I've got like some easy tips as well, if you want, or we can, you know, I don't know how much detail you want here, my love.
For sure, yeah. If you've got some easy sleep tips, because again, I think it's so important.
I have a couple of rules that I follow pretty religiously. I like people to have between 3 to 5 golden hours, not golden hours a day. And that golden hour is an hour without any technology. Okay, so no smartphones, no iPads, no TV. And I would love at least 2 of those golden hours to be the first hour of the morning and the last hour of the evening, and the other 3 of those golden hours to be meal times. So even if you finish your food in 20 minutes, still have another 40 minutes that you don't check your phone. You go for a walk, you go and talk to a colleague. Let's get relationships going again where we can without technology as well. You know, caffeine. We're such tea drinking country, aren't we? And I love my coffee and whatnot, but it's got a half-life of 10 to 12 hours. And, you know, the caffeine and the caffeine breakdown products actively interfere with your melatonin production and also your deep sleep. And your deep sleep is when you repair and when you excrete and when your liver and your kidneys and all those beautiful detox organs are doing their bits, right? When you don't sleep properly, it's a lot harder for all of that to happen. Caffeine's got a half-life of 10 hours. And yet we're drinking tea or coffee up until 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. There are only about 10% of the population that don't have the issue with the caffeine breakdown. And those genuinely are the people who can have an espresso before bed and they're fine. 100 years later, they're still fine, But something like curbing your caffeine intake and just go every day, just say, right, I'm not going to have it later than 7 p.m. The next day, 6 p.m. The following day, 5 p.m. So on and so forth till you get to something like 11 a.m. If you can do that 10 or 11 a.m., you will notice really, really amazing health differences because it's a subtle one. It's a free one. It doesn't cost any money. It doesn't take any effort. People drink tea, especially because of habit rather than I need a tea. So I'm like, just get decaf. It's really simple. On a quick caveat, if people are going to take the kind of caffeine thing seriously and think, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that, buy better tea as well, please, and better coffee if you can, because this is going to be the new sugar. Is the shitty quality, sorry, how can I say that? The rubbish quality tea bags and coffee beans that we use because we drink so much of it. It's less about quality and all about quantity. Yeah, that's right. So, PG Tips and Yorkshire Gold, I don't mean to be rude, sorry to the production of these tea bag companies, but they're just mass produced, There's these little companies, Tea Pigs and Pucker and all of this, the smaller companies, little thing, moldy coffee beans, which with your Nescafes and all of that, they are, I'm afraid, they cause internal mold. So that fatigue that people have a lot of nowadays, it's just constant fatigue, that's down to mold toxicity. People think of mold and they think of it on the ceiling. Yeah. And I'm like, what coffee do you drink? My intake questionnaire for a puncture is about 30 pages long. Because it's like, right, how much caffeine do you drink? What tea quality do you drink? How do you drink it? Where do you drink it? And they're like, Doc, what's this got to do with anything? And I'm like, we'll get there. We'll get there. Just fill it out for me, please.
Yeah.
Yes, I think on sleep, I mean, there's loads of things, okay? Yeah, but I think those 3 simple things are easy to do.
Yeah. And I just, on all of that would just say a kind of yes to all of it. Like one, like your awareness, you don't have choice until you have awareness, ultimately. So, and for me, that's been one of the biggest things. And I'm still, in different areas of life, realizing how much my awareness has increased and how much that gives me the opportunity to question either what I'm thinking or what I'm doing. It's like reach for the sugar, just that moment where you can go, what do I really want?
Yeah.
Am I just thirsty? That's definitely one of my questions when I start reaching for the food. Do I just want a glass of water? Is that what I really want? But also kind of, what am I hoping that this sugar is going to give me? Because I know it's not, because in 10 minutes when I've eaten it, I'm going to be beating myself around the head because it doesn't make me feel good. And as well, like when you talk about sleep and in particular caffeine, again, the awareness really helps with this. So I hadn't realized until I started doing all of this work how sensitive I am to caffeine. I cannot even eat chocolate. Like now at the moment and also because of the adrenal issue and the stress issue for me, I'm always like, if you are stressed, the last thing you want to be doing is going anywhere near caffeine, because it is going to spike your adrenaline and make it even worse. And it is like you say, that people who, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, well, you might go to sleep, but you're not getting the quality of sleep that you really need. Yeah.
Because again, have doctors been talking about this for 60 years? No. I see patients all the time, old people, and they come and they're like on Zopiclone, diazepam, Zilpadum. I'm like, why are you on 3 sedatives? I've had insomnia for 50 years, doctor. I was like, okay. How much tea do you drink a day? Oh, I've always drunk 12 cups.
Like, there's a connection here between the always drunk and you've always had insomnia. Well, maybe we can,
And to think, this guy's in his 70s. How many times has he been to his doctor over this?
Yeah.
When did the doctor even,
Yeah.
Do you think our medical syllabuses need to be looked at? I mean, they haven't changed. I mean, I got a Kumar and Clark in 1996 or something, and I saw the most recent published version, and it's very similar. Even like, it's shocking.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that you mentioned as well is about quality. I think that is just if you can really just even focus on that, the quality of the food that you're eating, and really think about, this is mass produced. How can this be great quality? Start looking at the back of the packets of things and go, what even is this? Like, because I don't try not to eat like gluten, wheat, etc. And you look at like the gluten-free breads and stuff and think, I think that's worse than actually eating normal bread, to be honest.
And I tell my patients to, when they start with me, they do go on an elimination diet because there are some inflammatory foods that I just want to get out straight away. And, the caveat is no gluten, but no gluten-free either.
Yeah.
Now you see how addicted to bread you are, Yeah. And I'll say, listen, life is for living, okay? And I'm a foodie at heart, which has been my own little journey with my own family of actually realizing that the foodie Ash is bigger than the health Ash. I'm Asian as well. Food's a massive part of our culture. As I said, my mum's an amazing cook. She taught me to cook, and I want to pass that on to my daughter. But can you imagine if we're doing like no gluten and no dairy and no salt and no like what the heck? No fun there at all. So no gluten free. But I say to my patients, after like 2 to 3 months on this elimination diet, what we'll do is we'll start introducing healthier versions of gluten, and we'll see how you go. So don't think that bread's out of your life forever, or pasta, whatever it is. But I promise you, live this way for a few years, you won't want to eat that anymore. You'll see how amazing you feel. I mean, I got rid of the obesity. Was a nice side effect, as I call it. My eyesight dropped by 1 number. I used to be minus 3.5. I wear glasses for distance. It went down by 1 number. I had like plantar fasciitis. I had shin splints. I had a really, really bad back issue. I had acidity every day. I had dry skin. It all went with lifestyle changes, So it's amazing how many little things. And that's what I say to people. I'm like, you think you're like your whatever it is. And then you don't have it for years. You don't miss it. Your body gets rid of all that inflammatory stuff that was there. And then you eat it and you're like in trouble. Your tummy's hurting. Your brain has gone all foggy again. I noticed after Christmas, for example, I started getting anxious. I was like, why am I anxious? Why am I anxious? I was like, Christmas. I'm just eating all this, because I'm so trained to think of my anxiety now. It's so weird how I've gone, I've done a 180 myself. Like everything used to be food. What's the food trigger? What's the food trigger? Because I now know that the emotional side is so much more deeper, it's so much more penetrating. When Christmas happened and my anxiety came back, because I was used to thinking about the mental, like why, but I'm really happy. Oh, okay, you've been eating loads of chocolate and stuff. Okay, your microbiome can change within a week. Suddenly.
Yeah, I remember taking a picture of myself this Christmas, for Instagram or whatever, and just like the bags under my eyes were red, and I was just like not look. I was like, this is because you've been eating shit basically, and also I'm like sugar really impacts my mental well-being, but it's that awareness that you get almost from taking them out, and then you realize, holy crap, these things were really not serving me. Like you say, your skin will get better. Like my nails are always like really strong nails. Anyway, it is the way forward in my opinion. So we could probably go on forever, but we can't.
We could do a podcast just on gluten.
Let's
not. I think there's about 1 million out there, but
So if people are listening to this and thinking, I want some of what they're talking about, where can they find you?
Oh, okay, wonderful. Well, they can obviously through your podcast on my Instagram. My name is The Bespoke Doctor. So if you just put in The Bespoke Doctor, there's only one of me, you'll find me. So there's my social media, my website, etc. Basically. Or I get a lot of people contacting me after I've done podcasts just on Instagram saying that was really helpful. I am an empath at heart. I will always give a bit of advice where I can for free, at the end of the day. And it's just topics I'm really passionate about, or even just where to point people in the right direction, if they want more information about that. And that would be wonderful.
It doesn't matter, does it, if they're not near to where you are, because you're based in Rickmansworth, because you can do everything
online and
virtually online.
What about, at the end of the day, if you want to see me as a patient, wonderful, but I'm just very passionate about education and empowerment. So if you just as I said, just want a bit of advice, whatnot, just jump online. It's got if you want to see me as a doctor, brilliant. You don't have to deregister with your NHS doctor.
No.
I will often coordinate with them as well. So like people will come to me and they'll say, oh, I've got diabetes or cholesterol issues or blood pressure, and I don't want to have them anymore. Yeah. I'm like, you've come to the right person. Let's fix you. Let's fix you. I'm like, go get your blood results from your GP. Because I functional medicine is a new concept in the UK. Paying for health is a new concept in the UK. We need to change the story around that, okay? Because we pay for everything in life. We'll happily pay $1,000 for an iPhone or and everyone's got them, and I know how much they cost, so, but we won't pay a couple of £100 to see a doctor or a nutritionist or a personal trainer. So readdress, again, your values, I guess, like look at, I always found it very fascinating how, most of my friends are doctors and whatnot, and they're all putting their kids in private school. I went to private school. I was very privileged, very, very privileged to go to private school. And I know how much private school costs now because my daughter was in private school for a little bit, but they won't buy organic food.
Yeah.
Because it costs too much. Or they won't buy grass-fed meat because it costs too much. But they're investing like £10,000 to £12,000 a year on their child's education, feeling that it's going to help them in the future. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't know. But I do know that feeding organic food is going to possibly prevent period problems in your teenage.
Yeah.
All the endocrine disrupting chemicals in pesticides. Or dairy, for example, conventional dairy and all that. I think it's high time that people read about everything. People know everything about the the Meghan and Harry interview, everything about COVID. But why do they not know about sleep just yet themselves? I don't know. There's a lot that needs to change from higher. So the more we can kind of put out information like this, the better.
And it's again, this is why
we do everything for our own bodies. We don't, doctors, I feel, should be there to do what the traditional doctor used to do. So is validate you, believe your story. So when they come to you saying I'm in pain, believe them, for goodness sakes, okay? And give them some comfort and some sympathy and some empathy, and then give them the medical advice for sure. But that's where our roles as doctors are better. I think like a 99.9% happiness kind of score. When people leave me, they hug me, they're crying in tears. And it's not because I've given them a pill, trust me.
Yeah.
Because I've sat there, looked at them, given them an eye contact, maybe touched their shoulder, touched their knee, and said, that must have been hard. And they are so taken aback. Not only has a doctor believed them, but they sympathized with them. And they've shown kindness and compassion. So, I think hopefully the medical world will change or start changing a little bit. But in the meantime, we've got to do what we can do to help ourselves.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, was because I really wanted to share with people and inform people about the fact that we have to stop looking outside of us for the solutions to everything. When it comes to COVID, we're kind of waiting for somebody else to come up with a solution that means we're going to be okay, when but you can do so much to work on your own immunity and to build your own well-being that is going to be as much of a contributor as having a vaccine jabbed in your arm. So that's why I wanted to have you on, because I knew we could just share with people you've got so much more control and influence over your own well-being than we have been led to believe for whatever reasons. I'm sure there's some big money involved in us not knowing that.
There is.
But,
I think have faith in yourselves, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, just have some trust in yourself, because you love yourself more than anyone loves you. You love your children more than your GP or your politician or your mistress loves your children. You are smart enough to figure out the wheat from the chaff. There's a lot of stuff online. I know that. It's not about the kind of way you eat, whether you're plant-based or omnivore or whatever it is. It's about just eating better. It's not self-indulgent to eat nice, spend money on food. Just become aware, be observant, see what makes you really, really happy. Is it scrolling through social media? Really? Or is it just I feel really light when I've had my thingy-free hour, my golden hour. Don't get me wrong, I'm itching to see my morning texts, but I do like that 1 hour of nothing. And, So try little things, try the caffeine thing, try skipping breakfast, try not snacking for a day and just, or for a weekend, but eating, at a table and eating with fat and protein and veggies and a pudding and a glass of wine and everything, but just sit at a table and do it. Try it. Don't be scared to try things. I think
exactly.
Very little lifestyle or nutritional stuff is going to harm you. Of course, we're not talking about taking weird supplements and stuff from random people, but like skipping breakfast and trying that for a week is not going to harm you. Trust me. And suddenly you might be like, oh my God, this is the best thing since forever.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect message to end on, is just give some of it a try and see what happens. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Like, and if you find that you end up like you're withdrawing from caffeine, well, then you know that you needed to do it anyway.
There's lots of aids online, on how to do things. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to offend your doctor. Honestly, when people come to me going,
I do it all the time.
Did this, because I don't have an ego around it anymore. Okay, I used to. I would have been like, who's the doctor? Dr. Google or Dr. Budweight? That's ego. I'm like, no, of course I don't mind. What do you think's wrong with you? Because guess who's probably knows what's wrong with them? It's like when the parents come in going, I know you're the doctor, but my kid, I'm like, forget me being the doctor. You're their mum. You tell me.
Yeah.
And that's, I wish doctors would start empowering. That's our job as well, to say to the mums and the dads and the whatnot, yourself. So what do you think's going on? I praise that when they come in going, I hope you don't mind, but I've looked at Google. I'm like, thank you. You made my life easier. And they're like, what? I'm like, and I'm joking, but thank you, because to me, it shows you're interested.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it might be driven by anxiety, but at least you're interested, as opposed to just coming and wanting a pill. The other thing, sorry, I know we were supposed to close off, but quickly, I've noticed that when a doctor does spend 20 minutes rather than 10 and talks about the antibiotic will fix things in one day, but it will mess up your gut microbiome for 6 months. Or if you just wait 3 more days, and I'm really sorry, the 3 days are going to suck. Your kid's going to be crying and screaming, and they're going to have temperatures, and I'm really, really sorry, but it's okay, but just bear with it. And then he'll be really healthy and he'll gain, they're like, oh, okay, no, doc, I don't want the drugs. Because patients do trust us, but they do inherently, with the right doctor bring it out of themselves, do trust themselves as well. Yeah. When doctors shut you off quite quickly, and I'm not just saying doctors, I shouldn't say that, sorry, it could be all manner of health professionals. When they shut you off, they shut your voice up so quickly, and we are like, okay, we can't be like that anymore. We can't be. It's your health, for goodness sakes, or your education, or like I had not an argument, but my daughter's headmistress called me up a few weeks ago, because this is before the school started properly. When I wasn't working, I was keeping my daughter at home with me. Just why not? She's never going to get this much time with me again in her life. And I'm really into children playing at a certain age, right? But we would do some work. And then I got a phone call going, Dr. Bardwaj, when Nana's at home with you, you need to be homeschooling her, right? And I kind of went, I said, thank you for that, but no. And she wasn't expecting that. She goes, what do you mean no? I said, no. I said, I'm her mum, not a teacher. And being her mum as an only parent, it's hard enough as it is, okay? Yeah. She's precocious and I'm having issues. I said, I feel like I want to strangle her when she can't get 1 + 1. But I can explain to my patients for 3 hours what the flu is, because that's my skill set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no. And she didn't expect that, but she didn't create an argument. And then I said, I'm also not having her sit in front of the screen for 6 hours. Sorry, but no. I said, if you don't mind printing it all up, which I didn't like, by the way, because of the environment. But and she did do it, to be fair. But I was not taught to say no to teachers. I'm an Indian girl. We don't do that stuff. You don't talk up to a teacher or a doctor or a policeman. And I did it, and it was scary when I did it. And that's what I mean. Just know what's in your gut instinct. You can say no to the doctor politely. You can say no to the teacher politely, So, yeah. Don't be scared.
Amazing, yeah. Don't be scared. Trust yourself and just give it a try.
Even when my daughter says things like, Mommy, I'm hungry. I'm like, okay, should we have a little, should we say congratulations to your body for giving you the right messages? I'm hungry. I'm like, I don't know, hungry. The food's coming in an hour. But it's important. Just start making people be aware that we are in control of this thing.
Yeah. And to listen to it as well. It's got so much wisdom in your body, so you just got to listen to it. Yeah.
You know, like anything, fevers, anything that's trying to come out of the body. I give this as an analogy. So whether it's a rash, you're breaking out in spots, or whether it's you've got dandruff, or whether you've got eczema or acne or diarrhea or vomiting, anything that's coming out, stop trying to suppress. It's part of something saying, I want out already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, your body's got very, very fantastic ways of healing itself and fixing itself all the time, really.
Yeah. Amazing. Right. So I think people are going to have so much information to go away with. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Chat, really fun.
Yeah, and I hope everybody watching, listening has enjoyed that and got so much valuable information out of it. And if you want to find Dr. Ashvy, the Bespoke Doctor is where to go. And I personally, from my own personal journey, would just highly recommend everybody goes down the functional medicine route. So all that being said, I'm going to close that episode here. And yeah, thank you all for listening, watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all again very soon for the next episode of the Uncaged podcast. Bye for now.